With that, we're like super high tech, and we've got a fantastic panel here for you tonight, and we're very, very excited. So just really quickly before we jump into the panel, just a quick refresher of what is social impact and how does this work and what are we talking about tonight? So social impact is really a new sector of the economy. We call it the fourth sector of the economy. And what's unique about this is that what we're seeing now is that businesses, and when we talk about businesses, we include nonprofits in that. We see that social impact businesses are mixing, mission and margin. They're mixing purpose and profit together, and they're creating new opportunities for us to impact our community, for us to help different populations and to serve. And so we're seeing this blend, this hybrid between for-profits and nonprofits. And so you're going to hear from folks up here, some of whom work for those. And obviously tonight we're talking about social enterprise, which is a mission-driven business. And that mission-driven business is important and unique because they are creating solutions to social problems, and they're solving those problems by using a model of capitalism. And so what we're starting to see now is people are using capitalism as because it's a powerful economic engine, they're using that to create solutions to problems. They're using this powerful economic engine of capitalism to create good as well as to provide more gain and more opportunities for folks. So now we're starting to see this shift in business. We're starting to see more people realizing that got to make money, got to produce that profit, but you also got to have this higher purpose. And we're starting to see in the research that people are starting to say, you know what, I'm going to purchase products from somebody who has more. I get more for my money because I'm investing in my community. If you're somebody that's interested in working for one of these companies, it's the same type of thing. People want to go work for a company where it's about purpose. People will take a pay cut to go work for organizations like you're going to hear from tonight. So this is part of the series that we do. We want to create value for everybody and create information and education, but at the same time, we want you to hear from local subject matter experts in terms of what they're doing and how they're operating. So we've got a great panel for you tonight, and without further ado, we'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves just really quickly, and then after that, we'll start the questions. But Chef, if you want to start out, just who you are, where you work.
Hi, I'm Chef Brent Beavers. I'm the executive chef at Aspen Point Cafe and Catering Company.
I'm Tina Schwanner. I own Frela Boutique.
Chris Medina, Executive Director and CEO of Pikes Peak Habitat for Humanity.
And I'm James Proby, the founder and Chief Ethos Officer of the Men's Exchange.
Love that title. And James, the first question is really, truly for you in the sense of, just tell us how your social enterprise operates.
Our social enterprise, specifically, we dress men, so I'm a haberdasher. So we want to make sure that we help men evolve, become better human beings, be better men, better men for their communities, for their significant others. But we start with that by helping men dress better. So everything in our shop is completely donated. So 100% of the items that come into our shop are donated. We have them dry cleaned. Once they've been dry cleaned, they go back out for merchandising and for sale. Everything in our shop is $40 or less. I'm wearing 100% of clothing that I got in my shop, so everything is of a particular quality of what we particularly work with. We provide a boutique experience, so we make sure that all the men get sized, get fitted. Alterations are available for them as well. So our goal is to make sure that men get a full boutique experience. They have all of their sizes taken for them, measurements given for them, so they take that with them when they leave. They pay less money. And then for every 9 men that are able to purchase clothes with us, we're able to dress 1 man in our community at no cost. So our nonprofit partners refer individuals to us every single month, and we get a chance to dress those men who are in need, usually for some form of an employment opportunity, but others because they've had a death in the family, or they're dealing with homelessness issues, or they're reentering from incarceration for a whole myriad of different reasons. We work with our nonprofit partners, and we help those men get dressed in and provide them the leg up to get to their next opportunity.
Great, thank you. Chris, tell us a little about your social enterprise and how you operate.
So with Habitat for Humanity, we work with families to build affordable homes. And one of the great ways to do that is through the Restore. I don't know if many of you have shopped at our Restore. We receive donated new and used building materials, and then we sell those at 50 to 80% less of market, and the proceeds of that goes back into building homes. So our Restore currently, basically it's paying for 4 of the 8 homes we build each year. So that's a really good return on that. We sell building materials, furniture, appliances, and it comes from a variety of places. So not only from the local builders in town, but if an apartment complex or a hotel, a long-stay hotel is donating items, we go in and we'll take it. Now, those items stay out of the landfill, and we save approximately a little over, it was 90 tons in porcelain and about 101 tons in just scrap metal that we're keeping out of the landfill. So we're also a green builder, and by having the Restore, that provides green building too. It's also a place for employment training. So we work with Goodwill Rehires as well as AARP volunteers, and they come in and they gain job skills. Some we hire, some they go out into the community because they've gained skills and they've gotten hired elsewhere. So beyond affordable home building that supports Habitat, it also has the local contractors come in. So contractors, small contractors primarily, landlords and individuals who want to upscale and remodel their businesses and their homes, they go to the Restore, and that saves a lot of money for them. So that's what helps keep housing affordable here in El Paso County.
Fantastic. Thank you. Ina, how about your social enterprise?
I own Frela Boutique. We are a fashion boutique. We have clothing and gifts, but everything at Frela gives back in some way or another. I created Frela to make giving back easy for everyone was my thought process, and it kind of grew from there. So everything at Frela gives back, whether it's clothing that helps women transition out of bad positions in Cambodia. We have candles that help fund teacher products or projects, or pet products that give back to animal rescue. So you can help a myriad of people by just shopping there. So Frela has just grown, and we've enjoyed being 100% impactful. We also work with the Hanger, and where you can bring us your gently used clothing, and we will donate it to the Hanger for you. And we also host events for them where we give a portion of our sales to them. So it was really important to me to make giving back easy and accessible to everyone. We kind of joke that you can do it on your lunch hour. So that's Frela.
Great. Thank you so much. Jeff?
So Aspen Point Cafe, we use the training, the facility to train students in kind of basic culinary arts. It's kind of like a boot camp. So we have a cafe that's open to the public. We have a very busy catering company. So we work with people that are kind of coming out of disenfranchised roles or have kind of gone through some type of life crisis, can kind of be all over. And they get with myself and my staff, and we work with them on being prompt, looking correct when you come to a job. And then we work on knife skills, sanitation, and all those types of things. So when they come through, they're with us 25 hours a week for 16 weeks. Can usually build some pretty good habits. And once they complete the program, we give them some kitchen tools. We give them a knife kit, and we work with them on finding employment that may be right for them, because so many spots in kitchens, not everybody's going to be a chef, but we don't need hundreds of chefs. We do need hundreds of people in kitchens. So we work with them, and then we also have an opportunity for some of the students who are more interested in continuing ed. We also are articulated with Pikes Peak Community College, and they can transfer in 13 credits of prior learning to kind of jumpstart them in a 2-year degree for baking or a 2-year degree for culinary arts. And that doesn't fit for everybody, but it's a fit for some people. So,
Thank you.
yep.
So obviously, as you can see, we've got a very diverse group of social entrepreneurs up here that are doing things very, very different in different areas of the economy, and obviously you get retail, chef, and everything else. So just a little bit of a different approach to this. Before we kind of move on to the next question for the group, I just wanted to check in with the audience and see if there are any specific questions that you have for any of our panelists about kind of their business model, about what they do, or we'll kind of get into the why here in a little bit. But anything about what you kind of heard already you want to dig deeper into. And if not, that's okay. We can press on. Okay.
Your Aspen Point is your only physical restaurant in the Citizen Service Center?
That is our only physical space. Yep. We deliver caterings all over town. We have, I think, 4 fleet vans that are out for catering functions. But all the training happens in that kitchen, or at least all the hands-on training. Then we do have a dedicated classroom in the county building where we do lecture and tutoring and all that stuff. So.
Right. So we've heard a lot about, kind of start with the why, and that's really the next question for all of the panelists or anybody who wants to go first. But the question is really, why do you think that at this point in time in our economy that a business should have a social impact built into it. Why do you think that's important?
Why not? It's that simple sometimes. I have it on my wrist every day. It's not harder. It's challenging.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I think everybody up here sleeps pretty well at night, no matter your day, because you do it for you. I do Frela for me. The fact that other people come in and enjoy it and love it and get it makes me so happy that I
Right.
would have a social impact, even
Right.
if no one out here ever understood why. So why not, right?
Absolutely. You want to go?
Yeah, sure. The social impact sector, it meets a need that's not being met, or it changes the way a need needs to be met. And it's serving the whole community, so it pulls us out. So even though, yes, you enjoy it for you, but you keep saying how it's giving back to the community. And when you can bring the community together, and you step outside yourself, then you're making your world, which is already getting smaller, it's becoming smaller, and you get to know each other better, and you get to interact with other cultures and socioeconomic levels, and you get to hear both sides of the story. And so often we get siloed, and we stay in our own story and the only information that we know. These broad ideas, they make you think outside the box, even when you didn't think you had questions about it. So our customers who come into the Restore, I was laughing, I'll sit up at the front sometimes and watch what people come out with. And we were talking earlier, they're so excited about something they got. I have no clue what it is that they have found, but they're excited and they want to talk and they want to share. And so that starts conversations. And in our society, so many of us, we don't even use our front porches. We don't know our neighbors anymore. So these type of businesses are getting people employed and bringing our community together. That's why I love it.
Yeah, we've got a slideshow in the shop that goes back and forth between men's fashion and inspirational quotes. And one of the quotes that's on there says, you never need a reason to help someone. And I think that's kind of one of the foundational pieces of what we do. You don't need to have a reason to help human beings that are around you. There's some very selfish portions of that. And like Tina said, I do the men's exchange for me. I love it. I absolutely adore what I get to do every day. I have some days that are more challenging than others, but I don't have bad days. I get to help individuals, and there are men that come to us. I'm going to tell you, 90% of the men that come in and shop with us come to us with less ideas about how they should dress. And after a few pointers and a little bit of information and having someone to model behavior and clothing after, it's amazing to see the men in our community, how they've made such giant strides and giant changes. It's great to see the personal impact that it has for every single one of them on the way that they dress, the way they feel, the way they carry themselves. And it's really important for the way that they present or show up or present themselves to their significant others, to this community, to their children. All of that feels absolutely incredible. So when we start thinking about a business that we want to do and how we want to impact it, I can't imagine myself. I've owned businesses in the past. I will own this business. I'll own other businesses in the future. I can't imagine any business that I'm involved with ever again not having some form of a social impact, because being part of a community is not taking from it, it's giving to it. And if you're not giving back to your community, you got to re-examine what you're doing and figure those things out. We've made excuses for business for a long time and say, oh, it's not personal, it's just business. That's a crock. It is personal. You're personally impacting someone's life with every single thing you do every single day. It's an incredibly personal environment. And if you're not willing to do something good for those individuals that are inside your community, get out of that community and go someplace else.
Amen. I think that businesses needed to change for a long time, and I've owned numerous businesses. We, as business people, obviously, I want to make money. I want to be successful in my own right. I think that's a very important thing to not lose sight of. But somewhere along the line in business history, it became where that was the priority, and we need to have that priority shift. I owned 2 restaurants in the past and was always a mentor and a teacher, and now with the social impact piece and social enterprise, kind of took that a step farther, where I'm not only teaching young students, I'm working on people with rebuilding their lives. And it has become, I mean, I'm obsessed with cooking. I can't get away from it. It's impossible. I tried, didn't work. Now I'm equally obsessed with the teaching part of it. Because there's something, I mean, it's great to make a cool dish, but when you can teach someone to make that cool dish,
Right?
and that dish represents way more than food for them. Self-confidence, skill building and all that. I mean, we've had people come into the program who, 40-year-old people, I'm the first person to ever tell them good job. And I think that's criminal because most of them have had jobs before. And this type of setting allows us to kind of rebuild, because I think there's a lot of society that's kind of broken and needs tweaking. That's society's fault. I mean, when you really look at it. So we have to look at how some of the institutions we have, and they have to do things different and better. And I think business, there's total reason that a business can be super successful, make tons of money, and heal tons of people and fix tons of
Right.
people. The idea that those two things don't go together, to me, is asinine. So
Yep.
Every one of us, from what you're hearing, we believe in the dignity of self. Because once you have dignity of self, then you are open and you see each other in a very different light and you see the dignity of others. And that strengthens all of us. It doesn't tear down, it builds us up.
And again, I think as you're kind of hearing up here from these folks, is it's using that powerful economic engine of capitalism to provide even more value. So it's okay to make money, because the more money that you make, the more value you can bring to the community. But you're doing it with a very specific purpose, right? And kind of going back to that why, and a lot of people will talk about this. They'll say, well, the why to a business really isn't to make money. That's that outcome, right? But I think really to kind of your point, it's like somewhere along the way, making money became that why. And I think what these folks are doing is that they're shifting it. Still going to make money, right? Still going to make that economic engine kind of churn, but you're replacing the money making as that why. It comes over here. This is that opportunity to do it. What's the why of why you're doing it? And you're hearing it in each one of these folks. And just a quick example, James, I'll put you on the spot.
Okay.
So, James, as you heard, sells men's clothing, and he also creates more value for men. James, you've told me many times, you're not necessarily in the business of selling suits. You're in the business of selling what?
So we sell confidence. We impact lives, and we do that by helping men dress in a slightly different way. We also allow men to view themselves in a different way. And we also sell connectivity. It's amazing how often that once you put on a suit and tie, you put on a jacket, you view yourself in a different way. Your willingness to connect with individuals around you changes. So, we talk about we sell confidence, and we sell that individual space for individuals, and we create that for them or with them. Our space is that we get a wonderful opportunity to journey alongside with every single person that walks through our front door. We can't help if you don't want to walk in and spend some time with us, but you walk in and spend some time with us, and we're going to provide you with a full boutique experience. We're going to provide you with education. We're going to answer whatever questions you've been afraid to ask as you've gone out shopping. In most places when you go shopping these days, you walk in and you're by yourself. You're on your own. It's like good luck. And then we wonder why we have a generation of men whose pants are around their ankles. They've never had proper behavior modeled for them. They don't have someone to teach them where they should do that. And this is not a low-income thing that happens. This is across the strata. So we've got... It's really funny. I had an older man who came in and stopped in and did some shopping with us. We've got an individual. I would say probably 25% of the individuals that shop with us make over 6 figures a year. But they also are in a space where one of the guys came in last week and said, we used to have a guy to do this. There used to be a guy. I had a guy that would help me with my suits. I had a guy who would look for my sizes when they came in and give me a call. You can't get that anywhere anymore. And he said, I'm so excited that this is here, and I'll be back, and I'm going to continue to come back. And I was like, yeah, you got a guy. Now you got a guy.
Thank you, James. I want to pause again here, just kind of check in with everybody. Any questions that you got? And if you wouldn't mind coming up here to the mic so we make sure we get it recorded for our folks that are joining us elsewhere.
Do I have to introduce myself to Mike in a minute?
You can if you'd like.
Hello, thank you for being here today. It's very exciting just to listen to your wonderful stories. My question is going to go straight to your heart, and your answer is going to go straight to my students. When we start, I'm a business professor at Pikes Peak Community College, and we're always talking about profit, 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 profit. So when you start your business, most people think, I want to start this business, I want to do it, I want to dive in, be the next Bill Gates. What moment or what thought process did you have to say, no, I want to do this and make a difference in my community? Why was that stronger than the profit motive?
I think for me, it comes down to restaurants tend to be very transient. You get a lot of turnover and things like that. And it came down for me of if I became a good employer, people are happier at their work, and happy workers produce better product. They make less mistakes. They call in sick less. And I think that's kind of where it started for me. And with my students, if they enjoy the teaching we're putting out, then they come. They come when they're sick. I have to send them home. You cannot work sick. I'm sorry, this is a restaurant. So I think one of those things is me, it really starts about that kind of environment of positiveness of, okay, so we're going to make a place, one, where you enjoy going to work. I've been in restaurants 30 years. I've only enjoyed going to work for a small percentage of that time. I had to go to work. I worked under some fairly mean chefs. They were great teachers, but it's like, hey, I can be a marginally cool fellow in the kitchen. I'm still a chef. And make it an environment that is exciting and positive to be in, rather than every time you misstep, you're just getting, sideswiped by management or whoever. And that's one of those things I think that really changed for me is like, okay, I'm not going to be this kind of boss. I'm going to be a different kind of boss, so that if my staff or my students are having some crisis, it's not a response like, oh, I can't believe this, you're the worst employee ever. It's like, okay, man, stuff happens. We're going to work through this together.
Right.
And I think one of the things that's wrong with kind of how we do business is a lot of times when someone makes a mistake in a business or school or whatever, we have an incorrect emotional response. A lot of times when someone does something wrong in society, we say, man, you suck. But that's not the case. What should be said is, hey, that is totally done wrong. This has nothing to do with your person. And if I'm a good boss, I'm going to teach you and nurture the person so that when you have a mistake like this, it's not an issue anymore, and you will make less mistakes. So.
There's a lot of stuff in that. So
Not a lot.
There was a lot there.
there's a lot there. So you bring up the work of Carol Dweck, who wrote a book called Mindset, and it's moving away from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. And the ideology of that is that only failure is quitting. Every day that you fail, you've gained a new opportunity to learn something new, and that's a space that we all live in as entrepreneurs. It's one of the spots that we all have to we get to occupy, and it's an amazing spot to be in. The other space that you brought up was, when did that switch for you? And honestly, with a shout out to the guy who wrote Schoolhouse Rocks and did the music and the lyrics for that, passed away this week, right? Within the last 3 days. Conjunction junction, we need to kind of change some of the spaces that's in there, because it's not or, it's and. So this entire movement is not, do you want to make money or do you want to do something good? It's, do you want to make money and do you want to do something good, right? It's a combination of those two things. I can't talk about what I do without getting emotional. I can't talk about the lives that we get to impact every single day and not be overcome with emotion, that tears don't fall out of my eyes. And it is a special thing that I get to do every single day. And I'm not alone in that. It's not like this is an exclusive club. Everybody can do this. Everybody can choose this path. When you start the conversation with yes and instead of or, let's get rid of, when we stop, and you can't, those of you who can't see this on television or whatever, when we stop building fences and we start building bridges, and we start saying yes and, I want to include that, yes, let's figure out how we do that, how do we incorporate this in? It's yes, we can do amazing things and we can make money. yes, we can continue to grow and take care of the economy and take care of the environment and not disenfranchise entire groups of people, right? Sure, you can make a lot of money with slavery, but was it the right thing to do? You can do that and do something else. So it ends up for me being yes and. And if we start conversations with yes and, then the multitudes of multiplicity comes out. We get a chance to figure out more and more and more.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm probably the oldest one on the panel. When I graduated from college with an accounting degree, I had a choice of going for a CPA or not going into public accounting. And I saw so many of my friends, even at that point, female friends, who were not seeing their children, who were going through divorces, because at that time you really had to push hard to make partner by a certain time if you wanted to move up. So I made a conscious choice that I wanted to be a parent and a wife that was able to be more involved at home. So that's kind of where it started with me. I also grew up in the San Luis Valley, which is the southern part of the state. And there's a pretty large population of those who don't have as much as they would like economically. And I had to see and experience where people are treated differently because they have less or they're culturally different. And that injustice, and I perceive it as injustice, has always set with me as I need to do something differently. So I took my accounting degree knowing that I could get a job wherever with that, because somebody always needs to have an accountant to tell you, do you have money to do this job? How do you do payroll? How do you do the taxes? So that empowered me to not have to constantly be going out and trying to find a different job. It opened many doors for me. So I've worked for not-for-profit, with the exception of a little bit of a stint with the National Park Service as a ranger. I have worked with a variety of not-for-profits that have shown me so many of my passions coming together in helping lift people up. I've worked with seniors, I've worked with environmental preservation, I've worked in health, I've worked with adults with developmental disabilities. And all of that came together for me under Habitat. And I don't regret at all that I am not making six figures multiplied over as some CPAs do, not all do. I'm extremely proud of the fact that when I go to bed at night, I know that I lifted at least one person up, and have helped again to bring a world that is much smaller than many people realize some dignity and respect, and teaching people that whether you speak proper English, whether you grew up, as my best friend did, moving from home to home. She went to 8 grade schools. She went to 4 high schools. She could hardly read when she left high school because her family had to get up and pack at night and leave constantly. That wasn't her choice. That was a situation she was put in. And of course, it's caused difficulties for her throughout her career and difficulties for her family. And I take great pride in knowing that she and I, from junior high on, have remained best friends, and she inspires me. So, yeah, I don't mind not having money, and I have enough. I've never been without, even growing up with
Right.
my dad being a teacher, and he was the main provider. We didn't grow up with a lot, but we never went without. And so also, I give thanks to my parents who taught us that it's okay to have just enough and to treat others with dignity. So that's me, very personal, but.
Can I say just briefly, just to your students, I don't have a college education. I'm a hairstylist. I always wanted a boutique. I knew nothing about social impact. It evolved for me. I realized as my boutique grew, I was naturally drawn to products that gave back, and I ran with it and took hold, and it just ignited, and it's electrifying to me. So I feel like something as a student to talk to is just do what you do and then find a way to make it impactful, because you can make anything impactful, and you can do it as a hairdresser that wants to sell cute clothes. You can still have an impact, My mom says that to me. She's like, oh, you just sell dresses. I'm like, I know, I do just sell dresses, but I help people in Cambodia. I help the homeless mission here in Colorado Springs. I help so many different people while I sell cute clothes, and I have no formal education. except for life. I have a lot of life.
That's formal.
That's so formal.
No, thank you so much, all of you, for your truly, you were right. It kind of went straight to the heart. And again, I think you really kind of talk about it's the and. And I think that's what you're hearing up here as well, is you're hearing from these folks that let's broaden the definition of success for business, right? Because traditionally the definition of success is measured in profit. And profit for profit's sake can actually cause some issues, right? Can kind of be a little bit scary. Look at the recession that we are kind of getting out of, right? But I think it's a matter of, yes, make profit and, thank you, James, have purpose. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about when we have these discussions is, broaden the definition of success. It doesn't have to be just that one thing. You can do both. It's not either or. You have a choice. You have another option, too, up here as well. You're hearing folks saying, and a lot of us know this, is that, got a choice, go work for profit, make money, go over here, work for a nonprofit, be fulfilled, but maybe not make so much money. It was or. And I think now what you're hearing from these folks is there's an and. Did you know there's a third option? Did you know you can combine your skills as an entrepreneur and your heart and your passion for serving your community? Did you know you could do both? And most people kind of go, I didn't know you could do that. That's legal? Yes, it's legal. And it's totally fine. And actually more and more people want to do that. So I think that's what you're hearing a lot too. So thank you for the work you guys are doing with that. Next question for the rest of the group is, as we see and hear more about really truly this kind of growing movement, and I just kind of reference the tagline of the Institute, we hope to, with the help of everybody in this room, truly accelerate the evolution of business. We believe that's what's happening here. We're seeing this different way of doing business. Capitalism 2.0, right? What do you guys see as the opportunity for the sector in the future as you kind of look ahead 3, 5, 10 years? What is the opportunity for this growing sector of the economy?
The world is changing so fast with technology and education requirements. Wow, it's kind of unlimited. I just came back from a Habitat trip to Uganda, and talk about entrepreneurial people who have what we consider to be extremely limited means. I went to a tech school where they needed a school bus, and they didn't have it. They built a school bus. They went out and they got scraps of metal, and they got tires, and they built an engine, and the seamstresses built. They made the world's open. There's a lot of room to grow and to be impactful, whether it's here in Colorado Springs or across the world.
I hope it becomes unusual that their business isn't impactful. I hope this becomes the norm.
Yeah.
We're not the kind of crazy tree hugger people.
We're not crazy.
We're not, but people don't all get it. And I hope it flips the other way, where people are like, you don't have an impact? What are you talking about? Everybody does. So I hope everybody starts to get it and it runs, and I just hope it takes off like fire. So.
And I think that the future for it is, there's been a lot of nonprofits that have been involved in kind of this kind of spearhead of this. And as it goes further, I think you'll get more small businesses and, then maybe some medium businesses and larger businesses who really take it on and say, okay, we're going to have a mission of social impact. And one thing I think is that it can take on, social impact is a small term, but it has broad implications. Hey, we're going to have it so that all of our single moms we'll figure out our schedule so all of our single moms can be at home with their kids 3 nights a week for dinner. That's a huge social impact. So I think, the base is small and it's gaining traction. But I think social impact can take on so many different meanings that can be good things, allowing people to have, more kids at work, or being, just less fussy if they have to miss work. And also, with that profit piece of when you start a new company, to think of how can I use this to bridge someone up somewhere, somehow. And I think it will take off. I think one of the things that, for it to be successful, I think it will move more out of the nonprofit sector into the profit sector, because part of the goal is, to show that, we can make money and we can be responsible and good stewards to people. And I think sometimes that's lost. And when you're good stewards to people, once you have a few bigger companies start to do it and showcase that, I think then it will catch on and say, hey, it's okay, because it does, like I said before, it cuts down on absenteeism and stuff, and it makes you feel better. I mean, I leave work and I'm happy, like I think all of us we've said. I love to cook. When I had just my restaurants, I was weary and tired all the time and sometimes really frustrated. I still leave work weary and tired. And frustrated too, but sometimes frustrated because I can't do enough to get through to the population I'm working with. Not really frustrated because of the downfalls or the shortcomings of my business. It's more kind of, well, I'm trying to get through to Jimmy and he's really having trouble. What can I do to be a better coach, a better business person to get through to him? But that's a frustration that I don't think is a negative frustration. It's a frustration that kind of propels you to become a better person, a better man, a better teacher. So I hope that's how it goes. I think it will go that direction.
Yeah, the future is in many ways the past. Oftentimes we founded capitalism on a bartering system where I took care of you and you took care of me. I think there's a space that's involved in that as the world gets smaller and as we get a chance to see that, we're going to find out that we are truly our brother's keeper. It's our responsibility to take care of each other. And as that continues to happen, I think you're going to continue to see this continue. It will proliferate and grow. And I really do. I'm right there with Tina. I hope this ends up being the case where we're no longer the weird kids at the breakfast club table, but the rest of the school catches up. So,
Questions from the audience? Anything that this spurred? Drew, come on up.
Well, this has been an excellent panel, and I'm very inspired. I kind of come from a more environmental impact background, thinking about repurposing materials, and so a lot of times with the social impact, it's a little harder for me to contextualize. But what I hear and what I see an opportunity for is thinking about how to influence our verticals. When we're talking about food, I'm so keenly aware of impacts that farmers are having to deal with, from cross-contamination of pesticides to, not being able to support their families or keep their bills up, with fashion, fast fashion especially. There's exploited labor forces around the world that are making all these clothes for us that go through different cycles. Building codes are not necessarily designed with the utility ratepayer in mind.
Habitat houses are.
Habitat houses are?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does Habitat influence developers? How does TechWare's upcycling technology influence fight planned obsolescence? I mean, this is something on the ground level. Practitioners can really drive this forward, but ultimately we're going to have to take it vertical to really have a fulfilled impact, if that makes sense. So I just wonder if you guys have any ideas or thought about that. And I haven't been in your boutique, but I think with the fair trade and those types of products are kind of leading the way. But as far as what's pragmatic for us right now, do you guys have any ideas?
Your voice is your best tool. So advocacy is huge. When you feel passionate about something, you got to start grassroots unless you know somebody else who's already got a movement going. And you sit in and you learn about what regulations are happening, whether it's home building or health or fashion. So an example of that with Habitat is we're an international group, and we advocate at grassroots for women's rights for land. So a lot of families are displaced because spouse dies, family's kicked off the land, they don't own the land. So we advocate in that way. When it comes here to the U.S., we are changing our model. We're going into multifamily where we can survive when you don't have a construction defects law that can cause you problems. So you have townhomes or you build up and you do condominiums. We already build beyond the required code, so our our simple, decent, affordable houses, they run $30 to $50 a month in utilities. So you're looking at and Habitat is known across the world for being a green builder. So you've got to, you have many, many interests, it sounds like. You need to find one or two that you're truly passionate, and you become the expert in that, and you get in front of your legislators, you get in front of that local, state, national, and you tell them, here are the things that I'm seeing, and you find out who else has a similar voice and desire. But that advocacy is key to making a lot of change, impactful change. My suggestion.
The Ties, that's your company. Okay. And you want to take your company vertical.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about the verticals. I mean, planned obsolescence is a thing. It's a design institution of, you know, let's make something good enough, but not built to last. Just good enough, maybe 5 or 6 years, then let's design it to break. So we keep this consumption economy fueled.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I feel, you know, like TechWares is up against, but it's not just TechWares. It's not, it's every industry represented here. And so how do we influence the vertical industries above us? And I hope I'm using that term right. I may not be, but supply chain. Thank you.
So I think
Professor.
So there's other pieces that are in there, Drew. So obviously, Drew has a business called TechWares. He does upcycled computer boards, circuit board. He makes jewelry out of them. He makes ties out of them, makes accessories out of them. We carry them in our shop because we also want to support our local business people. But I've thought about this for a while, and there's something that we can do in creating our own space. And I've called it, in my mind, I haven't told any of you this yet, but it's called Get Up Thrifted. And if you're going to get up thrifted, you get up thrifted with Habitat, with Men's Exchange, with Mountain Equipment Recyclers, with Pedal Station, with TechWares. We have enough businesses in this town that are taking things that are obsolete and finding ways to actually reintroduce them back into our community and point out the value that they still have. We can use that together as one voice. That creates a very powerful lobby that is not necessarily, you know, a lobby. We can totally do that, right? That's a space for us to get involved with. The second thing, and it addresses both questions, that yours and Jonathan's previously, none of us are getting any younger.
whatever.
I am.
All right, I'm getting older by the second,
I
okay?
refuse.
But the reality is that as we get older, we have a responsibility to teach an entire new generation of individuals how they can be socially responsible and how they can actually build businesses that we get a chance to define this space and teach hundreds of thousands of people how they can impact, so that this next generation and the generation after them will have a very clear-cut idea that this space exists for them, and they can continue to build businesses in there. That's going to ultimately change the supply chain, change the silos that are out there, change the verticals that are in those spaces, because those are individuals that are entering into the workforce knowing this is an option for us, this is an opportunity for us, this is a space where we can grow. You know, Sidney Poitier said in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, you know, people are dying on a daily basis. Not until we get rid of that dead weight off our backs and we get an opportunity to grow in a different direction. This is an opportunity for us to grow in a different direction.
The world is changing so fast. When I was in high school and college, my college programming, computer programming, was Fortran. And
COBOL.
yeah, which you may not even know what that is. 3D printers that can change the world, that provide a child's hand. You've got such imagination, and that's where you've got to put that imagination to a voice and meet with people like this and say, hey, here's an idea. You're going to find kindred spirits to say, oh, don't do that. That'll never happen. Yeah, well.
Yeah, and change your world, change everything around
Right.
you. You just I always visualize this silly mannequin I have at the shop with this flowers coming out of its head because I lost the head. And I just, in my mind, it's stepping stones, and I'm just putting them down. Some of them don't connect, but if you change your world, it ripples out, and
Right.
you meet people that know more than you and know the next step. So changing the supply chain ahead of you so far, it's kind of like dial it back, start here. That's going to change. They're going to have to change because we're all changing. So And you need to come to Frela. Sounds
Yeah,
like.
I'm gonna check it out for sure.
You should go to Frela.
I think that the food system and the way we eat, the way food is produced, the way restaurants are run, it's an area that has a lot of trouble in it. Wages aren't great. Food is more expensive than it probably really needs to be. We talk a lot with some of my chef friends of like what a true food cost is. The farmers are not getting enough of the true food cost to sustain small family farms. We try to do is say it's very expensive to eat local, small farm, organic. You have to have a pretty substantial income to do that all the time. So many people just say, hey, I don't do that. We try to teach people, hey, just do it sometimes. If you can buy local pork 6 times a year, you have made a difference, especially if 10,000 people do that.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden our small pork producers in Colorado are no longer at risk of not being there. So we always teach people, I say, hey, eat organic and small farm stuff if you can. But it's not an all or nothing thing. And I think sometimes whenever we're dealing with a problem or something that needs to change, it's like, well, I can't do 90 or 100% of this, so I'm not going to do anything. And it's like, hey, eat healthy a little bit. I think we have to change the way our portions are. Restaurants have to change the way they pay people. Restaurant workers don't make very much money. You can be working in the nicest restaurant in town and serve all small farm meats, vegetables, things like that, and you cannot afford to buy that food. And we do as chefs, I think we've talked about it for a long time with small farms and things. Both of my restaurants were primarily local pull restaurants. It pushed the price point higher. I basically excommunicated an entire part of who I would hope would be my clientele because they can't afford it. And I think we got a lot of work to do there because the people who need the best food can't afford it. And we work on that and try and do some of that. And I think one of those things is we have to remove some of the trappings around food. Healthy, local, good food does not have to be $25 a plate. One, if we eat less, it doesn't need to be $25 a plate. And then if we look, and that's not I think we also have to change the way we look at how we eat meat. I'm avid meat eater, but we eat meat irresponsibly. It should be like Thomas Jefferson said, eat meat like it's your sauce. And I think that's something to be said of, we can make a lot of changes with things like that. So I think the most important is do what you can when you can, and don't panic about the rest. Because as that gains traction, it will fix itself.
Thank you all. Great answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Any other questions? Mark, come on up.
Hi, Mark Snyder's my name. Are each of your entities nonprofits, not-for-profits, or, I know Habitat is.
Say that again, Mark. What's the
Are
question?
you not-for-profits, 501Cs?
So we're 501c3 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aspen Point is as well.
I'm
Is-
for profit.
You're for-profit, yeah. Well, and I'm an attorney. I advised several nonprofits and foundations, and I actually ran a Habitat for Humanity in the early 90s, Prince George's County, Maryland. But when I first got on that board, and it's a theme I've had my whole life now, they didn't understand that the only difference really between a not-for-profit and a for-profit is what you do with your profits. And trying to get these nonprofits to understand that they have to run their entity as a business
Absolutely.
is so hard. I can usually tell in the first 5 minutes pretty well whether they have a chance of being around in 18 months or not, because whether they understand that or not. And I'm trying to, I guess my question would be, how do you decide when you're making your annual budget, say for 2019, and you're looking at everything, do you have a target number as far as what your fund balance is going to be, what your reserve's going to be, and how do you balance that with your mission of social impact?
So the founder of Habitat didn't allow Habitats to have an endowment. That's changed, and his belief was, if you've got money, you need to be building homes. But Millard Fuller, not Jimmy Carter, Millard Fuller. Okay, all right. So when it comes to Habitat, we have We've got 26,000 people in El Paso County that need affordable housing, at least. And we can build 6 to 8 homes a year right now with what we've got because of that restore. And because of the mortgages that come back in. We call it the Fund for Humanity. So we reinvest those mortgages. Our homeowners pay mortgages, they don't get the houses for free. So those funds go back in. We want to always have at least 6 to 8, and how do we grow that impact? So we determined we needed 4 to 6 months of operating revenues in the bank. And the board said, okay, this is a policy, and we will keep this amount of money. We also know that we will always be needing land. Land, as you've heard, has gone through the roof, which is also impacting the cost of housing and the availability of it. So we determined how much we needed to buy land, and we buy hopefully in 5-acre parcels. So we took an estimate of how fast land had been and growing, and we determined what we needed to do with that. So because Habitat is a mortgage originator and servicer, we leveraged some of our loans, we sold them, and the board restricted those monies into a fund specific only to acquiring and developing land, because we are also a land developer. So it's a pretty complicated business model because of us being 5 businesses in one. But I have a phenomenal board who's very dedicated to the mission, and they have never let that mission falter. They do not put their egos in front of it. They know we have people to serve, and who are those people? So another piece of the model is when you have the very low income, and those are people who make less than 35% of the area median income, are we doing a disservice by selling them a home that they can no longer afford to keep up, and the property taxes keep going up, and their insurance keeps going up? So we have to look at what's our level that we should be serving. So our board moved the area median income that we serve currently to 35%, and the whole range up to 80% of the area median income. So again, and we're looking at house costs going up between 5 and 25%, depending on the components. So our board is comprised of attorneys who help keep us out of trouble, HR people, because I have a staff of 30, people who are very heartfelt social workers, and they make sure that we are serving our people first, both in-house and our customers, who are not only in the restore, but our customers are also our mortgage holders, our future homeowners. So you've got a lot of moving pieces there. Does that kind of answer your? Kind of. Okay. But we definitely have a budget that we set. This is our target. We're going to build 8 homes. How do we fund that? And so we also, to reduce risk, because the restore is a huge piece of our cash flow, we keep those mortgages. We reduce the delinquency on the mortgages. Our delinquency rate is almost 0, which is phenomenal, working with a group that is economically challenged. One major car repair, one major illness, and they're in trouble. So that Fund for Humanity and cash flow. And honestly, when you're competing with 2,800 other not-for-profits in one county, and as you know, we're each restricted, Habitat's restricted to fundraise only in the area we serve, that's risky for us. So we ask for a lot of in-kind too. So we have home builders who donate materials to us and time. I don't know. Let me know if you need more info.
That's a good thing.
Okay.
ARC, for us, we wanted to make sure that we were generating our own income, paying our own bills, and then trying to figure out what we could do to impact outside of that. So we start with the business model that starts with good old American capitalism, right? We are also a 501c3, so that means we can also ask for grants and get funding from foundations. We specifically try to use that to fund additional programs we do, like we'll teach a men's class, actually community class on entrepreneurship, how to start your own business. So when we teach the class, which is called Who Owns the Ice House, when we teach Who Owns the Ice House, we're going to have that offset by some grant funding. That allows us to do all of that still underneath the tagline, the umbrella of the Men's Exchange. But it also allows us the space to be particularly responsive as to what we need in this community. When we find that this community decides it needs more men's parenting classes, we have a space and an ability to put together classes around that in 60 days or less. If we need youth mentorship and we realize that there's a need in this community to help young men have conversations and develop relationships with other men in this community, we can put that together within 60 days. And we can go other places beyond our own money, which we will obviously leverage into that, but we can also go to other foundations and get money from them as well to help put all these things together. So it allows us the flexibility to generate our own revenue, as well as go to foundations and the public sectors and figure out where we can tie all this stuff together to do the most good.
Yeah, that collaboration is key to survival as well.
Yep.
I think ours is, our accounting and budgeting is a little muddy. We work within Aspen Point as a whole, and Aspen Point's a mental health provider for this county and Park County. So when we do our budgeting, we have obviously the cafe and the catering company, and all the revenue generated for that goes back into supporting the cafe. Be student issues and trainers and all those things. There is funding provided by the state for vocational rehab. Aspen Point qualifies for some of that money, so we get funding for each student that comes through the program. So we kind of budget as, we got to have this many students coming through, otherwise we have to adjust staff and things like that. So it runs a little differently than a normal restaurant would. Because we have a 4-to-1 ratio is our max student to trainer. So I have 20 students, and that adds quite a bit of staff that I wouldn't normally have. So in this setting, my labor is kind of, it's when you look at it, it looks out of line, but it's for the money we generate off food. But the point of the whole point of its existence is to use this as a training ground. So that training money helps pay for the extra staff. The food itself really pays for itself. And if it was just a straight restaurant, it'd be pretty viable on its own. But we'd have 8 less staff because I have 12 trainers. I don't need 12 cooks. That would be, just a cafe. But we do need the 12 teachers because working with the population we work with, they need a lot of one-on-one instruction, and so that makes our budget a little different.
So last question for everybody, and you got like 30 seconds for this one. So we want to get everybody out of here on time. But the question is just really quickly for each of you, and we'll start here with you, Chef, is just what's next for your social enterprise? What are you looking to do to change, et cetera? What's next?
Well, we're looking at Aspen Point. We've got a lot of students. It's going really well. As I was saying before, I think that the social enterprise needs to move into for-profit stuff. I have a startup little company called Immerse Cuisine that is starting in the Carter Payne. And one of my intents with starting that is it gives a creative outlet for me to cook in that's not the cafe. But it's going to provide a really good bridge for some of our kind of higher functioning students who've come through that really show a knack for food. It's a little bit more touched. It's a little bit more nuanced. It does kind of break it out of that really expensive food. There's nothing over like $12. You can come down and have something good. A lot of local focus. So we're going to use that as to kind of bridge these in, give them, a few weeks. We're looking at maybe 8 weeks of, employment with me before we can kind of, I can call a chef and say, hey, they did a really good job with me at Immerse. You want to take them in. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Tina?
We just want to keep growing and finding new products and keep bringing new things in and finding new stories to tell and keep educating people about how powerful their spending can be. So I think we're just going to keep trying to grow and educate and provide a platform for all these wonderful products. So power on.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Chris?
Definitely expand the Restore and continue to make sure that people know that its mission is Habitat. We also work with School District 2 in a career readiness program. So we have students that come out Thursday mornings and they get hands-on experience with the trades. So that's another piece that we want to figure out how to expand with other school districts. There are transportation issues with that, but we're working on that. We're also becoming a partner with Paint Care, which is a state regulated, where you can come in and donate your paint, and then it gets recycled and made into new paint. So we're becoming the first non-state, non-government collector of that, and that will hopefully expand some of our business. So we've got a lot of ideas. Need some young people with more ideas to help get us going.
We're looking to grow and sustain and continue to validate this as a business model so that when we have evil lawyers and politicians come up, and I'm just teasing, Mark. I'm just playing with you. I'm just messing with you, man. We can point out the fact that this is something that is sustainable and continues to grow. And then we want to provide something that looks like a franchise model, but is available in any community that throws their hand up and says we want this. And it looks like a franchise because we want to brand it the same. We want to provide as much information and as much success as we can build into that, but we want that to be a profitable piece. We want to talk about taking a percentage on the very end of that as the profitability comes back so that we can push that into revenue for us. So really that whole piece is just trying to figure out how we can replicate this in other communities and allow them to address men's issues in each of those communities because it's different than it is in the community here. So we want to continue to allow individuals to do that. Whatever the problems are in Seattle or in Cheyenne or in El Paso, we want each one of them to be able to address what's going on in their community at a very local level while having a national presence.
Thank you. So as my colleague Stacy Burns likes to say, everybody is an investor. Each one of you is an investor. Each one of you votes with your wallet. And so you can choose to vote with a company that you do no research on and just kind of does whatever. And every time you buy from that company, you're telling them to keep continuing those business practices. If you do a little bit of research and you kind of dig in a little bit more and find this stuff, because in the age of information, it's all in your pocket, right? You've got a smartphone, you can do this research. You can buy from, support local small business is one piece. Support local small business and businesses that are giving back directly to a cause you may be interested in supporting. So don't forget that. Hopefully that's a good takeaway. Hopefully you had many takeaways tonight. Can we get a round of applause for this great panel? Thank you to each of our panelists. We appreciate what you do in our community so much. You truly are making an impact. Thanks for your continued work. For folks who want to kind of hang around and stick around, usually what we do after this is we might go across the street, get a burger, or we might go get a drink. If you want to continue the conversation, some folks are welcome to stay. For those of you who have to go, we completely understand. But thanks for spending some time with us, and hopefully this was valuable for you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Hey, thank you all very much.